Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Horror Debate. I'm Michael Mandy. He's Rowdy Jeff.
And this week we are going to be reviewing 28 Days Later by director Danny Boyle and writer Alex Garland.
So, what did we think of this film there, Jeff?
Well, let me tell you a little bit about this film, man. I had seen it a long time ago when it first came out, and I guess I had heard a bunch of the hype. You know, and I was really looking forward to like this gore fest, things flying pieces, parts all over the place, and that's not what this movie delivers. But what this movie does deliver is a compelling story, one that you can't really be interrupted in the middle of, by the way, because if you get interrupted in the middle of this flick, you are lost, bud.
It just breaks the concentration of this film. You really need to sit and watch it from beginning to end with all the lights off, no interruptions, no kids, no pets, no nothing.
And that was probably my problem. The kids were probably, in the room or something. Yeah, because I didn't get it. And I thought coming into this, we were going to watch it again. I said, I didn't like that film the first time. I can't see myself liking it this time.
Well, you see, that's why we watch these films a
That's
second
why
time.
we do it again. That's right. So
with no kids, no interruptions, just jump into the film.
And I was actually very intrigued by it this time. I thought that it's one of the more realistic zombie flicks
I love this
that's
film.
out there.
I think it's great. It's awesome.
It is. It is in a lot of ways. Now, there are certain things they could have definitely done better, I thought, and which I'll get into a little bit later. Okay. But as far as feeling like, the desolation and the isolation of the characters.
Omega Man syndrome thing going on.
Yeah, I mean, very cool. Very cool. Very effective, all the way through with that.
That was a really good choice to use the film. They filmed this with digital cameras that George Lucas has been screaming about. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason why, and it was a smart move, because, when you're filming a scene at 5 a.m. in the morning, because that's when there's nobody around downtown London, and you've only got like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, you don't have 2 hours to set up the lights. It's just film it, we'll fix it in the computer later.
Right.
That's what they did. And I think that rapid fire shooting schedule and attitude showed on the film. It made it more like young filmmakers going out and doing it, a lot of aggression in the filmmaking style.
Yeah.
And I liked this. It made it more brutal filmmaking.
I kind of felt like I was in the movie. I mean, you kind of, if you're sitting there and you get entranced by this thing, which if you're paying attention to the story and you like zombie films, you like this sort of thing, you probably will get entranced by this one, because it takes a very realistic approach to the story and making you feel like you're kind of a part of it. You start feeling that desolation.
A lot of people jumped on this film and they hated it because they said it's not a zombie film. Don't call it a zombie film.
It is.
It's a virus film.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but it's not a virus where people are falling apart and help me, we need to contain. No, they turned into zombies. But you know what? They can still be killed because they weren't zombies according to our the Romero definition of zombies.
Exactly.
You can only kill them in the head. No, they're live people. You shoot them 10 times in the chest, they will die.
These guys were 10 times more aggressive than anything I've ever seen in a Romero flick. Man, these guys were on it.
That made it much more of an aggressive film.
Yeah.
I didn't like. People were saying, "Oh, you're messing with the canon, the Romero kind of zombies." The walking and the lurching, the Frankenstein walk. These guys came at you fast and furious. And oh my God, these guys can run.
Yeah, it didn't take long to set up the story in this one either.
No.
I mean, you're talking about like an hour and 50-minute movie or something like that, and it took probably 2 minutes to really set up. There was really no character development at the beginning. That kind of came after, which I thought was an interesting way to do it, because a lot of movies will lead you into the character development, spend a lot of time doing that, and then all the action is toward the end. Where this film really started out, bam, it's got your attention and you're in it.
It got your attention because of the lack of everything.
Yeah.
He wakes up in the hospital and there's a key on the floor.
Yeah. Right.
You don't know what's going on.
He wakes up completely freaking naked, by the way, which, that
got my wife's attention.
Yeah, I bet it did, If you're watching this for the first time, you're not ready for male full frontal. Yeah. You're just not ready for it, but there it was. And
they did that to make sure, okay, you're in for something you haven't seen before.
Right. And that's of course we're talking about the main character, Jim, who I thought was portrayed beautifully. I mean, he did an excellent job of playing that
fish out of water.
Fish out of water. I just woke up. I don't know what the hell's going on. There's nobody on the streets. There's like cars broken down everywhere, tires laying on the road, bodies. What's going on?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and that's very cool. I mean, the mystique of this movie, you know, it was that it was going to be a gore fest. That's what I kept hearing, is that it was going to be this gore fest. This is going to be so over the top. But it was just the opposite, and that made it even more terrifying overall, in my opinion.
The thing is, on me, I don't know, I must have been sleeping, or I must have been in the same coma Jim was in. I missed all the hype on this film. I don't know where I was that week,
Right.
but and I just thought I saw it at the video store. Oh, gee, a virus movie, kind of like, you know.
And it's a cool cover. I mean, it's going to grab your
Yeah.
attention. We're looking at it right now, the red, shiny cover with the yellow eyes, man. Yeah, that's
with
pretty
the
sweet.
biohazard symbol for blood.
That's right.
You know,
that's
I mean,
right.
I missed all the hype. I thought it was just going to be a stupid virus film.
Right.
You know, oh my God, we've got to contain the virus, and all of a sudden, look, here comes Dustin Hoffman, and you know, no, this was all of a sudden it turned into a zombie film. I'm like, going, oh wow.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah. Very.
And the first time when that priest comes walking out and starts running towards him, and he has to
when he smacked that dude, man, oh, that was great.
Yeah.
That was great.
I was just like, uh-oh.
I marked out for that one, man. That was good stuff, you know. And like I said, these zombies, or whatever you want to call them, the infected, we'll call them.
Yeah, that's what they call them in the film.
Yeah, as the infected. I mean, like I said, the most aggressive mothers I have ever seen in a movie of this nature. I mean, good stuff.
And the thing is, they, like you said, so aggressive. When he is in his house at one of the calm parts in the film, and he just lights the candle to look at some old, and the second they show the outside, the point of view of the infected, from the outside, they see the candle, bam, they're in that window, and just after him, everything. It's
right.
It's so. The word aggressive. It's an aggressive style of filmmaking. It's aggressive film.
Yep.
I wish I would have seen this in the theater at a midnight show with an audience going nuts.
Well, we've got to talk a little bit about the way it was shot, I think, because the way this movie was shot, I thought added, as you alluded to a little bit earlier, it added a lot of the ambiance that you wouldn't get if this was like a really heavily stylized, computered,
Hollywood, $80 million
exactly.
production.
This looked like it was budgeted, but it probably had a fairly large budget.
It had a pretty skinny budget.
Did it really?
Yeah, I remember listening to the director's commentary at the end, and they said they just finally ran out of money.
Well, you know what? We should make that more of a practice. We should not give these guys any money because they tend
make better films.
They tend to make better films.
Romero
with
did
the,
it, and and the Blair Witch Project made a ton of money, and they didn't have any.
You know, like I said, man, the way this thing is shot. You eventually feel like you're in this movie. You feel, I mean, the surround sound and everything, it's so quiet, and you're getting a lot of dialogue, and you're getting a lot of this, you know, like what's going on, the desperation, the desolation, the isolation, you know, and you really feel like you're pulled into this thing, and that you're there with Jim and with the other characters as well, as they're kind of dying one by one, unfortunately. But it absolutely was totally effective in that sense. And then when the action did pick up, and there was a lot of things going on screen, the technical aspects of this disc, the surround sound, perfect, absolutely accented perfectly. The video's gorgeous for what it is, but it maintains that grain that I think makes it look a little bit more authentic. You know,
well, because it was filmed digitally, they must have added that to afterwards in the computer.
Well, you noticed that too, obviously. I mean, it looked like it was a dated, you know, video.
Yeah, it looked like something from the early 1980s.
Yeah, which totally works in this sense, and also the European vibe.
Yeah,
or as I called it last night, the European vibe. That's like theater and theater, you know. I mean, the European vibe. No, but that whole thing, I think that that lended itself also to this. I mean, being
the European vibe. I get that at the urinal every
That's right. No, but you know, it just seemed like that added to you know, over there in Europe, you know, the weather situation and England, whatever. You know what I mean?
I thought that was great. The guy, they were waiting for water to come the raining.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought?
Who'd have thought we'd be waiting for rain?
No rain.
Exactly, and that worked. I mean, I'd have to say more.
Maybe from the States, but we got that one.
Yeah, I'd have to say more worked in this movie that didn't work. I think the pacing at some points, and I remember this from the first time I watched it. I'm sitting there kind of going, okay, we can get past this. We can go through this,
but
you know.
Then, bam,
something happens.
The pacing was awesome. The director knew what he was doing. It starts you off with what's going on, and then all of a sudden, bam, this church scene. Okay, now it's time to pull back a little bit. Okay, let's get our bearings. Now, bam, and
you begin to realize why it was
almost
slow.
like you're a yo-yo.
Yeah.
You know, once you start feeling it's getting slow,
Yep.
I just tell you, everybody out there, it will kick in. The minute you start saying, gee, this is getting slow, something's going to happen in
you
the
begin
next
to
minute.
realize why it was slow to begin with, because it's all dynamics.
It makes the violence and aggressive that happens after the slow even
That much more shocking.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. What about the zombie that was chained up at the compound?
I'm going to call him Bub.
But yeah, it's like Bub times 2 or something, man. This dude was like, I don't know, he was like, well, I guess when you get infected, you get roided up, man. This guy was like, he had major like roid rage,
weren't
man.
his red eyes awesome?
Killer looking.
He
That's what I was
looked.
going to say, is just the killer look of these zombies. I mean, the makeup on these guys was tremendous.
And all they do is just throw up everywhere.
Yeah, but what are they throwing up? They're like throwing up blood
Blood or
and
something.
guts or whatever, man.
Yeah.
It was, oh.
I guess they're just rotting from the inside out.
Yeah.
And like the soldier, the chief said, he wanted to study them to find out how long they would live until they die.
Yeah, right.
You know,
He was going to starve him.
Right.
He was going to starve the guy to death to see how long it would take. That was going to be their method of survival.
Did you expect this movie to kind of jump into that Day of the Dead? The third act was almost a Day of the Dead homage.
Yeah, I
to-
noticed that. And no, I didn't. And I kind of thought at first that felt a little bit out of place when they arrived at the compound, and the situation that was going on there with those soldiers, and what they were trying to do to the females. And I don't want to give away any spoilers here,
Right.
but I at first I thought it was a little out of place, but it does kind of fit and in the whole motif of things. And after it was over, I didn't regret having it in there.
No. I mean, at first, when I first saw it and I saw the zombie guy chained up, I went, Bub. Oh, my God, soldier.
Yeah.
Bub. And,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I kind of knew what was going to happen in the end. Is that going to be called, are we going to call that a copy of, or is it an homage?
Oh, it's going to be an homage.
I think
it's
This
not a
film had
copy.
the homage to Omega Man, him walking in the streets all by himself. It had the homage to Dawn
Right.
of the Dead, where they're all running through the supermarket, that part.
Yep.
You know,
Honestly, Mike, right now,
the guys who made this film did their homework.
This is my favorite zombie flick
Yes.
right now. This really is my favorite zombie flick right at this minute. Now that can change, but I just watched it again last night, and it just refreshed and kind of reiterated in my mind, how solid the writing was, how solid the filmmaking in general was, all the acting was solid. You didn't have one weak link in this movie.
And you didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, when the people you thought were going to make it or not make it or whatever, you didn't know what was around the next corner.
That's right.
You
That's
really
right.
did.
And how frantic was the scene? I just got to bring this up real quick. How frantic was the tire changing scene?
Oh,
Did that make you just want to squirm?
Oh, yeah.
Where they're actually physically lifting the vehicle in order.
The funny part was when the mice came,
Right,
and
the-
the daughter was on her back, laying right
Yeah.
there. I started
The
to
rats.
squirm right there.
The rats, yeah.
Yeah, the rats all charged. That right there started to squirm, and then all of a sudden you see the shadows.
Yeah,
coming.
yeah.
It's like, hurry it up! These guys run.
Good stuff, man. Good use of shadows in that
Good
scene.
use of music.
And music and sound effects, the whole thing. It was like I said, when they were changing that tire, I was squirming, man. It wasn't because of the rats. It was because it was like, man, these guys are coming. These guys are wickedly quick, and they're lifting the vehicle up by their hands because they don't have time to use the jack.
Well, plus all of those those tiny European cars, anyone can live.
Right. And, I think we brought up in another review, a little off the subject, but we brought up in another review how kids are sometimes being used as victims in some of these movies. Do you remember the child zombie?
Yeah, in
and
the
how
original
Jim,
Night of the Living Dead.
And how Jim had to handle that, with when he found him at the gas station,
Oh, yeah, in this movie.
Yeah, in this movie, exactly. And I noticed that right off the bat. I said, "Oh, Mike's gonna love that." I said, "We've talked about kids being used as victims, and are kids safe in these movies?" And I have to say now, no, they're definitely not. I mean, we've got kids turned into zombies and being just as vicious, or if not more so, than
We've got potential heroes or heroines getting killed, and the rules are off on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I touched on it a little bit before, but
I hate to.
Go ahead,
I don't
man.
want to spoil. At the very end, in the hospital scene, what you expected didn't happen.
That's right.
Because they said we knew everyone expected that, so we're not going to do
right.
it.
And that's cool.
Yeah. But the problem was they had to change it. It's one of the alternate endings.
Yeah.
But, But still, the directors knew what they were doing when they were making this film.
Right. And technically, like I said, the DVD is it's not a showpiece just because of the way that the movie was shot inherently. But I think that the 185:1 transfer, as clean as you're going to want it, looks almost high def on a regular DVD player. The surround sound is extremely effective. I mean, because you're getting that ambiance, you're getting the little noise noises in the background, the little tinglies behind you and stuff like that.
What about when that jet comes at the end?
Yeah. I'm digging this movie, man. I think that to put a nail in it, I'm going to give it 4 out of 5.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm digging this one. Yeah.
I'm tempted, 5 or 4. I can't decide which one.
I think that not everybody's going to probably agree with a 5 out of 5
Right.
just because of the fact that the
It's
pacing
running
is
zombies.
good, but it
I'll go for 4 just because
Yeah.
enough. It's yeah.
yeah, I'd say
The
a
whole-
solid 4 out of
Yeah.
5 and a story.
Definitely. Okay.
Check it out, people.
I'm claiming 4 out of 5. Definitely. I love this film.
Yeah.
It's a great film.
Yeah.
Check
And
it
I'm
out.
glad we revisited it because I would have never thought so from my first experience with it. But
All
this,
right.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm Michael Mandy. He's Rowdy Jeff. We'll see you next week at the Horror Debate.